Hello friends, back again with another video on some fantastic records that I'm going to highlight. Been thinking a lot about Al Kooper lately. I actually was listening to some of his solo stuff yesterday. I thought I'd do kind of a small little overview on two of his albums. Definitely both I could probably take 10 minutes and talk about each one, but I'll kind of keep it limited, just as an introduction so you're not overwhelmed by it, or, for those who really for those who really are, familiar with the album, we'll discuss that down there in the comments. So, the first album I wanted to talk about today was it's basically the Mike Bloomfield, Al Kooper, and Steve Stills Super Session. So, this album dropped in basically May of 1968, and what it is pretty much everybody on this album was kind of in a transition period, so it came along at like a perfect time. Basically, Mike Bloomfield, shown here, sorry that's backwards, basically was just about ready to leave the Electric Flag. Steve Stills, kind of the same thing, was just leaving Buffalo Springfield before he would go on to, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And Al Kooper basically had just recorded the first album with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And he had basically, left the band at that point. So this album was recorded in 2 days. There's, great session musicians. Harvey Brooks is in it, and then also Barry Goldberg, which we talked about the other day. He plays some electric piano on this, about 2 tracks, I believe. And it's, Al Kooper, of course, and Mike Bloomfield had worked together. They did session work on Highway 61. Al Kooper, there's a pretty good story about him putting in the organ part on Like a Rolling Stone. So he's done a lot of work, a lot of session stuff. I mean, he was in the Blues Project prior to this. He really never seemed to do. I mean, he has some good albums, but his solo career is very he's a very eclectic musician, so it's really his albums. I think one of the reasons why that they're not as popular as they should be is it's just that they cover, so many different genres of music just in one album, and it doesn't really seem to get a groove going or anything like that. But some of the songs are really good, but it's sort of, I guess, if he was to be, if the singles on the album probably do good, but the albums as a whole are sometimes can be a little tedious. So, but this is a great album. Albert's Shuffle, Stop. I mean, the whole album. I sort of discovered this when I was working at a record store in college, and sort of just became obsessed with Mike Bloomfield and Al Kooper and all their work and everything that they did. But they do a couple of covers. Basically Mike Bloomfield. There was 2 days that this was recorded, but the first day, Mike Bloomfield is very erratic as far as with how he performs. They say he's an insomniac, but I think it's, and I do apologize if this isn't true or anything, but I think it's a lot of things. At that time, he was really into drugs and things like that. So he basically, when he plays, I guess that he just stays up the entire time, and then pretty much just kind of passes out of exhaustion. So, and we'll kind of hit on that a little bit more in a moment here. But so this particular album is definitely a good one. I'm a really big fan of it, and it plays fantastic. One side is one side is Mike Bloomfield, the other side is Steve Stills. Of course, there's the long 11-minute version of Season of the Witch, which if you if you want to learn how to play guitar and the wah-wah pedal, it's an excellent one to to practice along to. But definitely a great album. Came out May of '68, and I think it went up to 12 on the Billboard chart. So this is a pretty common album to find. That's definitely one of the million sellers. So if you see it, definitely pick it up, because you won't be if you're into like sort of the blues rock. This album would be right up your alley. So I hope you latch on to that one, or if you ever see this pretty cheap, just go ahead and pick it up. This one, I never realized how much ring wear this had on it, so maybe I'm going to see if I can find maybe a better cover. But I've had this one probably for, oh man, a while now, so good stuff. And then basically we'll kind of finish it up with this particular album. which is Al Kooper and Mike Bloomfield. This is actually recorded from September of '68, so soon after, a couple months after. This is sort of when they were kind of supporting the album, if you will, doing a live set. This was recorded live at the Fillmore in San Francisco. So it's a double album. Again, this one, when I wasn't playing this album, I was playing this album. Let's put it that way. But there's a couple of the songs from the album they play on this. Also, there's the 59th Street bridge song, from Simon and Garfunkel, which I was a little upset because they actually overdub Paul Simon into it, and I don't believe he was at the concert. I don't think that I really haven't read anything that he was actually there or he came out on stage or anything like that. But towards, I believe it's the last, kind of the last verse of it, he sings along with Al Kooper. But it's definitely a good album, kind of freewheeling because it's a live album, so there's definitely some bum notes here and there, which is alright. But pretty much kind of the same thing happened. This was actually recorded for 3 days. The way that the concert plays out on the record is it's almost like it's 2 nights. So, of course, the first night with Mike Bloomfield, but it's sort of the way that it runs. It's kind of like they really don't play it that way. It's almost like as if there's other things going on. Pretty much to pick up the slack, Elvin Bishop, who was with Mike Bloomfield in the Butterfield Blues Band, and also Carlos Santana play on this. So again, another one to pick up. If you see it, it's a double, so usually it can be a couple of bucks, but it's I think it's a relatively common album. You should, you probably have seen it before. Kind of an iconic cover here, of course, Norman Rockwell. So I don't know. That's definitely something pretty cool to be. You have an album where such a great American, painter and things like that does your album cover. So I think it's one of the great covers. Of course, there's Dear Mr. Fantasy on it. There's a lot of really good tracks. That's Alright, the Elvis Presley song. The Weight, Her Holy Modal Highness, which basically is from this album as well, from the Super Session album as well. I don't know if I held up the back of that there, so it's kind of a pretty cool back cover. The liner notes are pretty interesting too, about kind of hearing the tapes and kind of going over the story of the album. So definitely 2 great tracks, Al Kooper and Mike Bloomfield. Mike Bloomfield, some of his stuff too, Electric Flag, did a lot of solo work into, I think, right around the 80s or so. He, still was putting out albums quite a bit before he passed away. Was also in a band called KGB, which I run across that album now and again, but weren't as good as these 2 albums. These are definitely huge albums. I would say just essentials in any 60s collection, or even if you're into blues rock or any type of guitar playing records. Definitely is a great one. So next couple of days are going to be kind of a little weird here, so I can't really promise. If you're used to watching the daily videos, early, and I usually try to post them by about I'm on the East Coast, so usually by about noon or so they get posted. But not too sure how the next couple of days are going to kind of play out. I'll try to definitely do videos. Some of it actually may be kind of going back to the older videos where I actually have the camera and I'm taking you on adventures, because I'm not really going to be near the computer as much as I would. So I'll try my best. If you don't see video from me for 2 days or so, don't be upset. I will be back, I promise, and I'll make it up to you, I promise. So again, I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for all the subs and comments and all the thumbs up and all that good stuff. So hope everybody's digs are going good out there, and hopefully you're finding all those treasures that your heart desires. So we'll see y'all. Take care.